Admiral Trench. Yeah, that's right, this guy.
Interesting.
In today's video, we are going to be discussing how we can put our best foot forward in preparation for tomorrow's conquest so that we can get that red box as easily and as hassle-free as possible. Join me for a while, why don't you? In but 24 very short hours, ladies and gentlemen of the Scribe Tribe, we will be graced with yet another season of Conquest. And you know what they say in the wise words of Scribble the Old, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. During this conquest, you will be earning shards for everybody's favourite arachnid, Admiral Trench. Now, I'm not here to discuss whether or not we'll be getting a brand new capital ship to join us with this particular admiral, although now that we think about it, I could really use a brand new Darkside capital ship. I am getting absolutely wrecked in Rise of the Empire TV Darkside fleet missions. What I am here to talk about is how you can put yourself in the best possible position to be getting his shards to be red boxing that conquest as soon as possible. Let's dive right in. Before we're even talking about how do we go about doing this in the best possible way, we have to think about why. Always ask why, guys, why? Why do we want Admiral Trench? Well, there's a couple of reasons why it's super important for everybody to start working on this character immediately. And I'm going to give you some high-level ideas of why. Number one, it's a conquest unit, ladies and gentlemen. Conquest unit. I know conquest is long, it's grindy, it's draggy, it's boring. But try and find your fun with it because conquest units matter. Yes, even Dad Bod Boba has his place in the game if you put enough effort into him and you learn how to use him in territory wars. You don't even need his Omicrons necessarily to find some level of use. Also, if you do not invest in your conquest units at the early time when you can, you will be paying for it down the line. It will become more and more difficult. Also, take a look at the fact that many of the characters that you are recommended to be using with Admiral Trench are characters that everybody has got geared up. We're talking about characters that are requirements for GL grinds. Characters like Dooku, characters like Django, characters like Wat Tambor, Newt Gunray. These are all required at high relics regardless. So if you get this character, most people have already got a team that you can fit into, but if you don't have one yet, then eventually when you gear up these characters for their respective galactic legends, you will have a nice shiny conquest unit that is going to slide right in. Smooth. And that is the other good thing. He does elevate this faction, supposedly, of characters that are not seeing as much use. Now, I know Wat Tambor and I know that Newt Gunray have their place in the meta already, but characters like Dooku and characters like Django and even potentially Asajj Ventress are characters that do not see a lot of high-level play. If we can suddenly throw these characters under an Admiral Trench lead and he can potentially start killing GLs, that is a good trade up. But let's also talk about some of the cons for a moment, because let's not pretend like the loss of Wat Tambor from a C team or a loss of Newt Gunray from a General Grievous team doesn't sting a little bit. It smarts. But if you think about it, C is able to still perform and do exactly the same role as he currently does with the use of our favourite Mandalorian, the Armourer. She is able to apply that triple stacks of Beskar armor, which more or less replaces the use of the armor tech that he would normally be getting from Wat Tambor. So Wat Tambor's loss there is not massively impactful, but it does create an additional scenario where you might have to gear another character to have same use out of your C. The loss of Newt Gunray from a GG team can be a bit of a sting as well, because Newt Gunray does fit very well in a GG team, and GG is already able to beat GLs such as JML, is able to beat C, is able to sometimes even beat the likes of J and K. However, he can also beat teams like Starkiller, and he doesn't necessarily need Newt Gunray in that team. You can replace him with BB-8 and it still works perfectly effectively there. The last negative point I do have for this character is, yes, he is a Territory War Omicron character. You really have to decide for yourselves whether or not that is an area of the game that you really want to invest your Omicrons in. I am firmly of the opinion that 90% of most people's Omicrons should really be going towards any GAC characters that you happen to have built up. Let's not take away everything from TW though, they do give some rather significant rewards and it could be subject to change down the line. We might get some additional rewards that are very important in this game mode. I don't recommend throwing on Omicrons for characters for stuff that might happen in the future or might change, but personally I don't see Territory War Omicrons right now as a massively important investment. If you like that game mode, if your guild is incredibly Territory War focused, then this is probably a pro for you guys. We're going to have to see just what GLs he can take out on offense with these Omicrons before I can fully make an informed decision on this one though. Now that we've gone over the pros and cons for our boy Admiral Trench, let's talk about putting our best foot forward. First things first, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to being efficient in Conquest, you really want to be taking a look at all the large feats that you need to be hitting in advance and prepping your teams ahead of time. Now for me, the most important feats that we really have to deal with are the global feats first and foremost. There are quite a few global feats here that are going to take some time for us to chew through, so planning ahead is paramount. Let's take a look. We've got 40 wins with Separatist droids, we've got 40 wins with Sith, and we've got 40 wins with no leader. We also have 20 wins with BT-1 and 000, as well as 20 wins with R2-D2 and C-3PO. Now where you can, and this is important, where you are able to double dip on feats, then go for it. For example, trying to get no leadership done with a bunch of the Sith teams or with the Separatist teams is going to be a massive benefit to you. Taking a look at the Sith teams that you can make, I find that if you're going with a Malak lead with the rest of your Sith Empire, doesn't even really matter if you've got Malgus, you will still be able to clean your way through the early sectors of this game without leadership and with a full team of Sith allies. Take a look at the rest of your Sith teams. If you happen to have things like Sith Eternal Emperor or even Lord Vader, you should be able to come up with some Sith teams that use no leaderships by throwing them under a GL. That should get you through a lot of the tougher battles. Now when you break down these feats, 40 wins across a 2-week period turns out to be around about 3 battles a day. So make sure that you schedule in time on each and every day when you're doing your Conquest battles to get at least 3 wins with full Sith, 3 wins with full Separatist droids, and at least 3 wins with no leadership. Personally, I'm going to be going for an approach where I try to get multiple no leadership victories as quickly as possible to try and burn through. Now let's take a look at BT-1 and 000. Make sure you take note of the wording on BT-1 and 000's feat description. It doesn't state anywhere in that feat that you necessarily have to have the character survive the battle. So you shouldn't have to invest gear into these characters, just have them unlocked and go in with a stronger team. Now I know the likelihood of you surviving that battle without losing those characters and without dropping stars on those nodes is very, very slim. However, you can use the bonus nodes at the end of sector feats, which you can then turn into additional data cache or slicing materials for your datacrons in order to complete the requirements for this feat. It is also going to give you a legendary data disk once you've got this done, which should make the rest of your path nice and simple. Similarly, this is also the case for R2-D2 and C-3PO. However, I imagine most people that are going in on a hard conquest have probably got significant team investment in R2-D2 and C-3PO that they can throw them within a team that's already going to get a lot of use out of them. Say Rebels, Resistance, even Galactic Republic, or just throw it under Rey in the Resistance team and you will be able to get through those feats incredibly quickly.
Subscribe.
1 minute.
Don't forget to tell them to like and subscribe, yeah? Cool. I'm here for you.
Thanks. So once you've come up with a game plan for your global feats, then take the time to look through the individual sector feats and try to plot it out accordingly. For example, in Sector 1, we can see that we need to defeat 50 enemies with CG's favourite faction, the Inquisitorius. Now, I'm not saying you need to do 50 battles with this, or even go in with 10 battles and kill 5 enemies with the particular Inquisitorius. You can usually find an occasion where you can get multiple kills or farm kills in a smaller amount of battles. Try to look for those individual teams that you can do that with. In particular, I find that if you can find Imperial Troopers, they're a very useful team to farm kills on, because they've always got at least 3 revives, so instead of 5 kills, you can go ahead and get 8, for example. Now, I'm not talking specifically Inquisitorius kills here. You can see in Sector 2, there is also the same feat for Rebel fighters. In Sector 3, you've got it for non-separatist droid units. Sector 4, you've got it for Hut Cartel units. Sector 5, you've got it for smuggler units. So always think about when you're going through your path in Conquest, try to target at least one node where you can think, here I'm able to farm kills on Imperial Troopers. Here I've found myself a nest, which I can deliberately set up data disks so that I won't kill her to farm things like the incredibly inane Fracture 40 times feat in Sector 5. The last tip that I want to give you on this, guys, is more of a counter tip, an anti-tip, as it were. It's very important to identify which feats that you can do and which teams that you can use in order to satisfy the requirements for those feats. It is just as important, however, to note which feats you should avoid. During Conquest, you can usually drop about 30 keycards and still hit that red box. It gives you a little wiggle room with what feats that you can do. So I recommend you go through this list and identify feats that are either impossible for you to complete or feats that are going to be too time consuming for you to actually go through and do. Take a look at them, note how many keycards they reward, and if you can keep your total threshold of missed keycards under 30, then just ignore them. Personally, I will not be doing the win 14 battles with a full team of Ewoks because honestly, who has time for that? Hi Gerbil. I'm also probably going to ignore the inflict torture 50 times. Now that is going to be 2 instances of 10 keycard feats that I'm going to be missing, so it only gives me about 10 more wiggle room, but it's important to identify these first and ahead of time so that you can plan accordingly. Let me know in the comments section down below which feats you're going to be skipping, and more importantly, if you haven't finished the Galactic Challenge today, check out my video over here. I go over on how to get it done. There's only a couple of hours left. What are you waiting for? Cheers, guys.